main business of Amalgamated Appliance Holdings is in manufacturing, importing and exporting and distributing small domestic appliances and equipment. AMAPS, as it is known, is a market cap of 764 million rand and a price-to-earnings ratio of 10. Its own brands like Has, Russell Hobbs, Sultan, Tedelex and George Foreman. AMAPS recently reported interim numbers showing a 132% improvement in basic earnings per share. On a 132 improvement, Paul, in basic earnings per share, alone on that, you would buy and say, come on, these guys have to be able to do a little bit better. Even if they drop by half, you're still in good territory, right?
No, definitely not. Look, the nature of this business is also interesting. So go back to my earlier comments. A lot of people needing to buy household goods of this nature.
Yeah.
A huge market in a expanding continent such as ours, because you're buying kettles, you're buying hot plates,
yeah,
basic stuff, irons. The stuff comes from China. A little bit gets manufactured here, still a little bit of assembly here in South Africa, but it either comes from China, and you've got big retailers like your Macro and your Game and so on, who've got their own buyers who also know how to get to Shanghai and also know how to get up the river to the place where they make these things.
I'm getting the drift. The margins are thin here.
Exactly. But the question is, do the local retailers, that is, buy themselves and get their stuff made and get their house brands, or do they go to the likes of an AMAPS and they put in orders for, a bunch of George Foreman toasters and so on and so forth. So it's a constant ebb and flow, and you're only as good as your last deal, and you're only as good as your relationships are with your core clientele and so on and so forth.
Yep.
So it's a little bit tricky. This company has done rather well in times, but rather poorly in other times. A lot of susceptibility to the rand, obviously, because if the rand is volatile, you can get stuck with a bunch of stuff that you just ordered,
or
and you can't
can make stock profits, Paul. Exactly.
So the one interesting thing that I would put on the table about AMAPS, though, is that they've got a 27% shareholder in Bidvest.
And is that is important for Paul. I suppose from what Paul says, Viv, the rand is key here, and your call on the rand to a degree does determine whether you like the stock or not.
Also to a certain extent, but the longer term thing, as Paul mentioned, is why doesn't the retailer go up the Yangtze himself and find his own products? And that comes to, again, a question of scale. I mean, the larger guys are able to actually go up and control to a large extent some of the supply. They have the trusted trusted house brands, etc. And so that's one of the things you've got to worry about. If you do have a larger retailer out there decided to take supply into his own hands, he can cut out the middleman and to basically make a profit for himself. So that's one thing to worry about as well.
Yeah.
I do think it's quite reasonable in terms of the fact that it has a split between the consumer electronics stuff, as well as having some more long-term durable household and homeware items as well, which probably will give it a bit more stability in having that diversified portfolio. But that being said, I'm also quite nervous about someone that's a middleman in an environment in which middlemen tend to be cut out to increase profits.
Yeah, and China is around. So where do you stand then? Hot or not for you?
I'd probably be on the fence or turning towards
again on the fence. Viv, you're finding it difficult to make a stand here. Paul?
No, I quite like it. Look, it's done well. It's right up at around 365 rands a share, so it's come along well in recent months. They've resolved a legal dispute that they had with some other company that was making batteries for Tedelex, and they've got some other pending claim, SARS. These guys always fight with SARS because they're either importing, exporting, they're fighting around customs duties. This thing came from Lesotho, therefore, that all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would buy it, but I think it is an interesting story, and maybe Bidvest is going to hoover up some more shares in due course.
Absolutely. So perhaps a speculative buy. Modestly hot is Paul's call.